What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another tier list, another ranked Joust tier list. And today we have 11.9. If you guys aren't aware of this, I do a tier list, a god tier list for every single new patch. As you can see right here, this is 11.8. This is based on 11.8, where everyone is. And actually, I'll do this because you can't see some of these right here because of my camera. But this is 11.8 tier list for all the gods. We're going to be doing it for 11.9. If you don't know, every single patch I do one, a ranked Joust tier list. And today we're doing 11.9. And obviously for 11.10, we'll do one for there too. And basically we're just going to go down the list from top to bottom to see if anything has changed in terms of if they're any better or worse, based on all the buffs and new metas that really hasn't arisen, really. The meta has kind of been set, but what has either gone up or down on the tier list based on some buffs to items or gods. So that is what we are here to do today. So yeah, let's just get to it, I guess. Again, we're going to start from top to bottom. If you'd like to look at the tier list before, just to get an idea, then it's right here. You can pause right here and go to the end. But at the end, I showed this tier list right here anyways, and compare it to what it was like, or compare it to what it is for 11.9 at the end of the video, which I assume most of you are doing anyways. So regardless, let's start with number one. We have Fafnir. So actually, let me see something. No, I can't. Maybe I can. Maybe I'll do this. No. I'm trying to see if I can zoom. Okay, well, you can kind of see that this is Nem, this is Mercury right here. So we'll do that. Fafnir. So starting with Fafnir, I think he's still SS. I still think you ban him. He's not doing as good as he once was because of some other picks that we'll talk about that are doing a lot better and that are easier to play. But regardless, if you're able to hit your stuff consistently, late game, you just solo anyone. You're better than any god in the game in terms of like a 1v1. Your setup is amazing. The damage that you can output and give to your teams via your two, it's just absolutely insane. He has everything that you would want in a guardian. The damage, CC, and set of buffs that you have, especially in your dragon form. And all the buffs that he's gotten for however long ago has made him still just so fucking good. The only downside is a little bit harder to play, but he's not terribly hard. You just gotta play him some and you'll get used to him, and he's really fucking good. I'm gonna keep him in SS. Serket staying in SS because they're never gonna nerf her because she's not really good in Conquest or really in other game mode comparatively to Joust. She has the setup she has the CC. The type of CC she has is reminiscent to a Guardian. The amount of damage she has on a single target is absolutely insane. She has so much burst. And her mobility is gross. I think a few patches ago, her 3 got an extra... And actually, I got an extra buff. I can't remember what it was. But you're now allowed to leap longer at a longer range. So I don't think she's ever going to get truly taken down from that top pick. Unless there's some other picks that outshine her and do what she does better. Which I don't think they're going to be doing, or they're going to be changing much, because they're not really, like I said, not really the most focused on Joust in terms of buffing and nerfing. Ares, I'm going to bring down to S. I still think he's not as... I just hate going up against Ares, so maybe that's a bias too. So I'll bring him down to S. He hasn't been one of my go-to bans, and that's just because not a lot of people play him at that high level. And so I'm not too worried about an Ares when you compare it to other easier gods that you can get out of the way that do his job, a similar job to what he does, a lot easier. So gods like Serket do his job a lot easier, mechanically easier. As you don't hit his chain, he kind of doesn't do much. So I'm gonna bring him at top of S, although I could argue for a ban because he's still just that guy. It's just a little bit harder, and nobody really plays him a lot. People start playing him, then I'll start banning him. But Serb still staying in ban. I think even after the nerf, he's still I don't think that nerf's going to do too much to him. It was like a little bit less damage and a longer cooldown on his ult, but at the end of the day, with Curse Weaver still being that broken of an item, I still think he's still SS. Uller I'm going to bring down to S. He's very similar to Ares, just at a bigger scale. No one really plays him. I still think he's very good. He got a lot of buffs recently too. I still think he's one of the best gods in the game if you are an absolute beast with him. But unfortunately, he's just not really being played all that much. Or being seen at a high level compared to other hunters that are easier to play. Cthulhu, I actually think I'm not ranking it based on what their placement is in the specific tier, but I think Cthulhu is like up there as your top dog. He's so easy to play, does so much damage, and he's so safe. And I think he's like a easier version to play of Fafnir. Except the only thing is that Fafnir, I think, has better boxing potential at the end of the game once he gets a spell bit online. But Cthulhu is the easiest, most broken fucking god in this game. He got a nerf and it didn't do much. Kuzenbo. How do I feel about Kuzenbo? I'm gonna be honest. Whenever I play with people, I think other people are. Whenever I play with people, I always hear them ban Kuzenbo, and of course I ban Kuzenbo to be a good player, team player, because I still think he's super fucking good. I don't really think he's SS, and people might argue that he is. You may think I'm kind of trolling. I still think he's like one of your top guardians. I just don't think he's like, I don't know. Whenever I go up against a Kuzenbo, he's just not a threat, whether I'm playing a tank or a damage dealer like a mage or a hunter. I just don't see him as a crazy threat. He's still super fucking annoying, but I don't think he's SS. I think people may be a little bit overhyping it, or maybe just don't know how to play against the Kuzenbo. I don't know. Maybe I'm underhyping it, but I still think, since this is my tier list, I don't think he is SS ban. He's going to top of S though. Charybdis. I still think Charybdis is still up here. She is just still the safest. Hasn't gotten nerfed ever since she's gotten all these buffs. And I still think she's the best hunter. Nothing more to be said, honestly, there's nothing new to be said compared to what I said about her last time. You know, with her 3 being buffed, her ult being a lot easier, and the amount of damage that she does in this meta. It's going to be SS. So out of those SSs, 3 of them went down, in my opinion. All right, on to S. We're gonna go with Kumba. I think I undervalued Kumba Karna. I think the old tier list that I had, I think I would have put in SS. He's gotten a little bit of a nerf. He still does a fuck ton of damage. However, I'm still gonna keep him in S because I don't think. I mean, I don't know, man. I still ban him more frequently than a Kuzenbo. Out of these, though, I ban all of these. Charybdis at the end, because Guardians or Guardian-esque characters, like Serket, they're just so fucking good with the... So I'm going to bring him in SS, actually. My reasoning is that I just absolutely fucking hate going up against him. The extra damage that he had in this 3, I don't think that the nerfs to his damage were all that important. More so the fact that he has damage in his fucking 3 now. And that was the biggest thing about Kumba ever since they nerfed him a while ago, is that he just never did the damage. He almost had too much CC for what he was able to do. His 3 didn't give damage before. His cooldowns were longer, now they're like super short. So even the damage that he does do is a little bit less potent. I still think he's SS. I could argue top of S. I think I was wrong on my 11.8 tier list. I think he was SS before, and I still think he is SS just because of the amount of times I fucking ban him. And that's just because of how much damage he does, how annoying he is, and how many times, like me, even me, I get baited by Kumba's passive a lot. And that's just because, or no, I don't get baited by Kumba's passive a lot. I get baited by his passive sometimes, but every goddamn, like when I solo queue, every single person on my team gets baited by his passive. His passive is up like almost every single team fight. And so it's like super annoying. I'm just like, dude, I don't want to play against this fucking guy. And so a lot of times I'll ban him. So I'll put him in SS. It is actually kind of cool though, the fact that Kumba's in the meta now, that you do have to play accordingly to his passive. If he's like super low and you know he has his passive and you'll potentially die for it, then there's no point in doing it. And so there's like a lot of different things that I had to work around when playing against Kumba because he just wasn't in the meta ever. So I'll put him in SS. Hoi Yi, he's the other hunter that I ban frequently. I don't think he's an SS. I still think he's an S. And he hasn't really gotten nerfed or touched, so really he's just gonna stay here. He just does so much damage and shit like that. All the buffs that he's gotten. Atlas is gonna stay in S. I don't think he's SS. I don't really ban him much, but he's like, there's so many Guardians right now that are so fucking good, and that's just because of Curse Weaver and just because of the double tank meta with hunters being in your damage dealer, your backline, your damage dealer, and so I think he's definitely gonna get through a lot compared to these guys up here, and I think that he's a really good pick for your Guardians if these guys get banned. Medusa got banned or nerfed a fuck ton, and I still think she's super fucking good, so I'm gonna keep her in S. The damage build, like the full damage Kins build that she runs that I like on her is still really good. Rajan, I think currently is the best mage right now. I don't think he's quite SS, and I do think mages aren't doing as well compared to like the top hunters. He's gonna stay in S2, but honestly, we're gonna talk about these mages, and you're gonna see that there's only a few like top dog mages, and I think Rajan is one of them, especially since he's got a recent buff. People have been sleeping on the monkey, the Rajan monkey. Odin. Odin and Achilles got really big buffs. Not like the biggest buffs, but they got some solid buffs. Honestly, I mean, I'm usually banning... If I'm trying to ban warriors, the only warriors that come to mind are Odin and Shiva. I don't even ban Achilles anymore. And I still think Achilles is S. So I think, honestly... Now keep in mind, he's been here for a while, but I think the recent buffs have brought him up to being a ban. Yeah, I'd say he's a ban. Because you gotta imagine, I would say, this is what I'll say. He's definitely a ban, but I think he's a ban for your last two bans. So in Joust, there's 3 sets of bans. Your first phase, you have 3 bans. I don't think you should ban him there, unless you're specifically going a god that'll get countered like AMC or Agni or whatever. I don't think... Yeah, I think you should ban him in your second phase of it rather than your first phase, because I think his buffs are really good, and he's the only warrior that I really look at when I'm trying to ban warriors. So I think he's up there. One thing I did forget though, I need to add a tier here. I meant to add A+. I did say last time that I was gonna make a A+, so I'm gonna do that right now. All right, yeah, I'm gonna make sure to tell this at the end as well, but last tier list I did say I was gonna add an A+. Thankfully, no gods here are looking at A+, so that's fine. But yeah, A+ is your new tier, because I think there are a lot of gods here that wouldn't really fit under S or A all that much, but A+ is one of the ones I think fit in between those, so I think that's a good tier to add here. But yeah, none of these guys, I would say these guys are definitely all S. These guys are obviously SS, so it's fine that I add this here. I'll make sure to notate this at the end. But Achilles is a very, very good god. Obviously was a ban before, recently got buffs. If it wasn't the case that he'd gotten buffs recently, I would put him in A+. But yeah, so I'm gonna keep him in S. I think he's still S because I still think he is very, very good, especially with his ult. If you play a good Achilles, I think he's in an S tier. He recently got buffs to make him that much better. So I still think he's an S. Now Neja, on the other hand, Neja's a weird one. So I'm actually gonna put him at an A+, and that's just because I don't think he's definitely not as good. But every other god here I think is better than him. What makes me almost want to put him in S is the fact that he recently got buffed to his ult to where now it's like 70 seconds, I think, if you level it up all the way, or something crazy. And I think that does a lot for him, but I don't know if it really pushes him up to S. So I think I'm gonna keep him an A+. Yeah, I can make an argument for S because of his ult, but I still think he's just a solid, like a really good A+ pick. Mulan got nerfs. She's going down to A+. I think she was already a really good, solid character that no one really paid attention to after she got nerfed. But she got nerfed again, and now I think she's not so much an A or S, but she's definitely an A+. I think the nerfs that she's been consecutively getting to her passive, her damage, and her cooldown, I think she's still a really solid pick, but I don't think she's your top of the food chain warriors anymore that you need to really worry about. So I'll put her in A+. Persephone, I'm going to put in A+ too. I think there's another god that's really, really good, but because she's safe, has a CC immune ult, but I mean, not a lot of the mages just haven't been feeling all that great. So I'm going to put her in A+. Jing Chen going right to the tippy top. My god, this fucking god. So I'm posting a video soon, and I do have another game where I absolutely carry the fuck out of these games. You build Jing Chen with Curse Weaver, Explodey Sigil, and like a Pridwin or something. He just does too much fucking damage. If you don't know, he'd gotten buffed to his ult to where now I think it's shorter cooldown. It does more damage, and the casting timer, or where he winds up before he ults, has like a 4% increased 4% increased animation, I believe. So you're actually getting your ult out sooner. He got another buff too in his 3. I can't remember. I think there's an extra second on his 3 because you have two stacks of your 3. You jump once, and then you have another jump, and that you have one more second on that. So that means your getaway is a lot easier, or you have a lot more leeway for your getaway. And then the protections I think are increased too. I thought he was already a really good underrated, like I think you could make an argument that Jing Chen is a ban, but now this has pushed him over. With Curse Weaver not being touched all that much, like it got nerfed like in last, I think in 11 in this patch actually 11.9, and I don't think it did anything to it at all. And so with all that, I still think I really think he's definitely now SS. He's your top pick, and I'm banning him in your first phase all the time unless I'm first pick and think I can get him, because my god, I think I played him 2 games, and collectively I think I went, what's that, 15 plus 8 is 20. I went 23-1 as Jing Chen, only building Curse Weaver and Explodey Sigil. You'll see the video, like it's absolutely disgusting. So I think he's tippy top there. Vulcan, I do not think is an S anymore. I think he's an A+. Like I said, a lot of the mages just aren't doing what they used to do, and they weren't even really the best anyways. They were really bad, and then they got buffed a little bit. They were like pretty good, and then they just haven't been touched in a while. Meanwhile, Guardians and shit like that, they've just been getting fucking up there. And so I think, you know, being a mage, it kind of blows a little bit compared to being a late game hunter from what I've been seeing and playing. Kukan, I'm going to bring down to A+. Again, this is another god that I was, you know, teetering on S and A. I think Kukan is a good A+ pick. He's does a lot of damage. Your Blink ult is surprisingly really, really fucking good. And he does a lot of fucking damage, and I think he's really good in your double tanks. Baron, I'm going to put... I'm gonna leave Baron in S. This is one of your other mages I think is really good. Not for the same reasons for like Rajan, for example. I think Baron is a really good... one of your best mages in a Guardian sense, if that makes sense. Like, you don't really want to build him full damage, although he does slap his full damage, but his full potential, I think, like I've said a million times, is your tank hybrid-esque builds, and I think he's still an S just because of the amount of buffs that he's been getting. He's gotten like 3 or 4 buffs within this past few patches, I feel like. And so I think he's still up here. Shiva, I'm gonna keep an S too. Him and Odin are your top warriors right now, in my opinion. I don't think I'm missing anyone, but these are your top warriors that are just so fucking good. Shiva, just best escape. He has 2 forms of escape. One of them being CC immune. 2 forms of knockup. Procs Rune Forge really well. Does a fuck ton of damage. And is really good in your double tank comp. Very similar to Horus, he can also be a single tank if you really need him to be. Although I think he thrives in your double tank hybrid type build. So him and Odin, I think your two best warriors right now. Marty, my god, I've been playing Marty so much. He's actually really good in the double tank, depending on the combination, of course. I don't know what the fuck I just changed here. I put Serb up here, oops, or down here. Marty has been my go-to. I think I'm like, on my main account, I think I'm like 8-0 on Marty. And so he's really fucking good. And he's your obviously ability-based damage, safe, one of your safest hunters in the game. And I think people just forgot about him. I think he's a better version of AMC, even though AMC got buffed. So I think Marty is definitely up here. Still, he's your best ability-based hunter, outside of maybe Budusa. Bacchus is staying in S for obvious reasons. Will never not be a really good god. Cab had some buffs too. I think he's probably A+ though. I think I was teetering on S and A with him before. And I still think he's a really solid, really good guardian. But the problem is that all these other guardians do what he does a lot better. A lot of them having CC immune ults that he does not have, which is one of the biggest downfalls of him currently. And I think that he's A+. Outside of like some few counters with his ult, he's A+. Otherwise, you know, he's super good against like Marty or AMC because of his ult, obviously. E set him bring down to A+, and this is the version of like being sort of like a Baron type build, being hybrid, tanky like, because I think she builds better that way. Nothing really changes with her. It's just the fact that a lot of these other Guardians do it better, and I think Baron does her job better and easier. Herc, I'm going to bring down to A+. I've been seeing him a lot in the meta. I wanted to put Herc in... I was teetering between Herc, S, and A before, and I think that with his A+ tier, I think he definitely fits this a lot better. Because you're not really banning him, and there are a lot of other better warriors. But let's not pretend that he's not fucking really good. He's super tanky, he doesn't die, and he has his crazy setup, obviously. While doing a fuck ton of damage. Morgan Le Fay, I don't think is in the game. I think they took her out, and I don't think I don't remember. Is she in the game now? I haven't touched a mage in so long or seen her, so I'm thinking she's still not in the game. So I don't really know how she is. I'm gonna be honest. But if we're gonna go based on how she usually plays and how I think she's gonna be in this meta, I still think she's gonna be your solid top of the food chain mages, but I don't think she's up here in S. I think she's probably A+ based on previous information. I don't think she's playable. Sun Wukong's probably A+ as well. Haven't been seeing a lot of him, and that's just because I think there's so many better picks. You don't really want to go a Sun Wukong and double Guardian comp. That kind of blows, unless you're strictly playing against a specific team. I don't think he's all that go-to type of character god, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna put him in A+. Terra, I'm leaving an S. Terra is so underrated. I mean, obviously not as good as these ones or even the top of the S, but I still think she's an S character. She's been getting constant buffs. The items that the Guardians like to build into, like Curse Weaver, are still really good on her, and she does a fuck ton of damage and helps the team with a lot of CC on her with her 2 and her 3. And she's got a lot of buffs. I still think she's S. I think she's super underrated. Hunbats, I'm gonna leave an S as well. I think Hunbats is so undervalued. Like I think he has the best ult in the game, and you can build him semi-tanky. You build him with a relic dagger and like mantle, and then the rest you go damage with like a sigil as your starter, and he fucks, dude. He absolutely fucks. Having like a 40-second ult with like with super like blink and beads, you just never fucking die, and you have so much setup for your team, so much ability to get rid of people's ults, beads, all that type of shit. So I think he's probably one of the best assassins currently. Chiron's gonna stay here too for obvious reasons. I think ability based hunters are doing really well right now, comparatively to, well, honestly, nah, I feel like ability based hunters are still doing very well. I'm thinking that ability-based hunters earlier in this meta, earlier in this season, they were a lot better. Like where gods like Eve, Scotty, and Don's ability-based were coming out the meta, coming out the woodworks, and yeah, that was crazy. But I still think they're doing fairly decent, and so they're gonna stay here. Yu Huang is your only other S tier. No, I wouldn't say that. We haven't gone through the other mages, but this is your other like go-to mage that I've been seeing, I've been playing, and I think is still very good. And that's just because he's super safe. All the buffs he's been getting does a lot of damage. And I think I view him very similar to Rajan. Don't think they're completely SS, obviously, because you're not banning any mages this season currently. But if you are thinking about your top mages, it's going to be Yu Huang and Rajan from what I can think of right now. Lancelot's a little too high. I'm bringing him down to A. I don't think he does much compared to a lot of the other warriors / assassins, because he can be played like a warrior, Jesus Christ, an ability-based warrior. But obviously can be played like an assassin too. I think he's still super solid, and I maybe can argue A+, but no one's playing him because every other god does what he does better, I feel like. But I mean, going up at Lancelot, still super fucking good. He can definitely do some things. Honor, I'm bringing it down to A+. Don't think he's all of that. I think there are better hunters like Medusa, Charybdis, Chiron, Marticarus. So I think he's probably A+. Still very fucking good though. A good Honor will carry games. I can promise you that. Geb. Yeah, Geb, man. It's always hard for me to distinguish where the fuck Geb is, because I don't see him a lot, but when I do see him, it's in specific team comps that I hate. For example, if Geb is playing with 2 backliners, he just saves them all the time. Or if he's playing in a team where it's double tank and they play correctly, it's just like impossible to play the game. However, certain team comps he's not really good in, you can kind of feel it, and he kind of just doesn't do much. On top of that, a lot of people who play Geb it's just so, I don't know, either he's like really good or they're not really good. So with that being said, I'm gonna put him in A+. I think with all these other guardians that are a lot better, that do his job, they don't really do his job, he has his own job type kit with his 3 saving your team. But in terms of like CC and damage, I think there are better guardians for what he does. His 3 is unique though, obviously, because it cleanses. So I can't really say they do his job better, but they do other things that are more important in the meta, like damage and setup, a lot better than what Geb does, I feel like. So I think he's probably like tippy top A+. Moving on to Jormungandr, I think he's also A+. I think he definitely had some buffs that I think that made him really good, and I think that he's a little bit undervalued in Joust compared to a few patches ago. So I'm gonna put him in A+. I don't think he's quite S, and he's going down from last patch because I think there are better guardians than what he does. But still super fucking good, and I can maybe see an argument for S. Isha's going down to A. A+, sorry. Okay, yeah, I'm back. Someone's at the door. Anyways, Isha. Definitely not as impactful as she once was. I think she's A+. I don't think she's your top mage, but definitely a super solid mage. And she's a little bit lower just because mages aren't really doing well. And she's not really the exception currently. I just don't really care much about her in the team comps, and don't really see her much anyways. Still super solid mage though. And then Discordia, I'm also going to put in A+. I've been seeing her a lot, but haven't really felt her presence. Every time I go up against her, she usually just doesn't do much, I feel like. And so maybe I overhyped her in S, or maybe I can see an argument for S, but not really. I think she's A+, really good, solid, above average mage currently. All right, we already talked about A+, because we're doing them right now. Lancelot A. Hachi. This was another guy that I was between A and S. I think Hachi's A+. I don't think he's the greatest. I don't think he's the worst. I think he's really, really good though. And so I think he's A+. Not a lot of people play him, but I still think the safety aspect he has with his 3 and his ult, and the amount of damage he does is pretty good. So I put him in A+. Xbalanque has got a lot of buffs. I think he's S tier. I'm going to be putting a Xbalanque video out. I beat a really top tier player, I've got to say. Old, I think, veteran of the game. But when I played Xbalanque, I felt untouchable. I played him a second time too, and he's just so fucking good. If you don't know, he got a super mega buff in his 2 and a little bit of a buff in his 1. And that mega buff to his 2, you can fucking feel it. My God. And so I'm almost curious to see what he would be like with ability based, as his 1 now procs, I think, ability based items. So I think he's one of your better hunters currently. Ravana, I'm going to keep in A. I think he's good. I think he's solid. I kind of want to put him in A plus, but nah, I'm going to keep him in A. I can make an argument for A plus, or I can see an argument for A plus, but I think he's just your solid, good assassin. Remember, he used to be a warrior, so he plays like a warrior, so he can fit that role pretty well. But again, I think there are other warriors that you would want to play instead of him, even in your A plus rather than him, I feel like. AMC got a pretty big buff in his 1, and I'm going to put him in A plus. I don't think he's as good as Marty, but I do think that with his buffs, with his 1 specifically, is he can have 12 of his 1s anywhere on the map, and I think that's really fucking good. And I honestly thought it was A plus before, but although it hasn't been the most impactful from what I've seen, I still think he is definitely A plus. If you don't want to play Marty, you can play AMC. Thor, I'm going to keep in A as well. Nobody fucking plays him, but I still think if more people played him, I think they would have a lot more, there'd be a lot more counters that he has, specifically to gods like Marty, for example. But again, I don't think a lot of people play him because I think there are other better picks. But with that being said, I think he's A plus. I think he's a really solid, again, he used to be a warrior. I still think he plays as that hybrid warrior, and I still think he's really fucking good. And I haven't seen a Thor in so long, but I do think he is one of your better assassins. Just nobody really plays him. Ganesh got a lot of buffs. My God, he's in A plus now. I feel like I used to think he was S. I think I a little bit overblown him just because of how many things he counters and how much damage he does, CC and shit like that. But obviously there are better guardians right now, and so I think he's your A plus, and that's just because he got a lot of buffs. And I think he teeters between S and A pretty well. But he got buff in his 2, his 1, and then his 3. He got a buff in his 3. So he got a really big buff. I think that was one of his bigger buffs he's gotten in a while, and I think that pushes him to A plus. Nike definitely going to A plus. Got a lot of buffs, but again, not gonna put her in S because of the fact that Sunder and Relic Dagger exist, so they can kind of counter the fuck out of Nike. But I mean, she got a buff in her ult, and then in her 2, I believe, and those are pretty solid buffs, and so I think that pushes her up to A plus. Don's I'm going to keep in A. Ever since, ability-based warriors haven't been a meta, I just haven't been feeling his presence. Still does a lot of damage, and in certain comps can be really fucking good. But generally speaking, I think he's just kind of there in A. Just a solid, middle-of-the-road hunter. Maui, again, I'm going to still keep in A. I think he's just your middle-of-the-road guardian. There's so many other guardians that are better. You're never banning Maui, so I'm going to keep him in A. Artemis got nerfed, but I'm going to keep her in A still, just because I thought she was a little underrated. I thought if this was here, I'd put her in A+. But with the nerfs that she's gotten, I think she's A. And with that being said, she's going to stay A. Osiris, I'm going to put in A+. I think he's a really solid warrior that no one really plays much ever since he got a lot of, he didn't really get nerfed, but more people started playing other gods, and I think that really pushed him a little bit out. But I still think he's one of your better warriors if you're not in S or obviously SS. Gilg, fuck, I'm gonna bring him in A+. He got buffed too. I think he's super fucking sleeper pick because he can play both roles as your auto attack warrior or ability based warrior, and he's gotten some buffs in his ult and his 1, and his 1 is absolutely disgusting. So I think he's an A+. Baba, I don't think has any presence, and that kind of hurts me to say because I love playing Baba. I can see an argument for A+, but I don't even see it. I think Baba is just an A god right now. I don't think she's doing all that much, and that's just and every time I play her, I'm always underwhelmed by her 2 damage. That used to be her core thing. She does so much fucking damage. Now, late game Baba is a different question, but you have to get there. Early game with her sucks dick, and I just don't really like how she feels right now. All your other mages up here are better than her right now, and that kind of hurts me to say. Horus, I'm going to keep in A as well. I don't think he's doing great right now, but it kind of would feel weird to put him any lower than A because of how much damage. He's good in the double tank. He's a good single line tank. I just think that everyone up here does what he does better, specifically Shiva. And the same thing goes for Ardio. There are way too many Guardians that are better than Ardio, especially with her undeserving nerf that she's gotten with her one. Set, I'm going to keep in A as well. Nothing crazy about Set. He's kind of blows in the double tank as much as I've heard some people say he's good in double tank. He's really not. He just doesn't do damage against them. And he gets CC to high hell, doesn't have a CC immune ult, so you have to buy beads on him, which makes him kind of not great in double tank, so I'm going to keep him in A. Freya got nerfed to high hell, and so with that, I'm bringing her down to B. Just doesn't do much, in my opinion, especially with the nerfs that she had. Late game Freya is different, obviously, but she's always been like that, so it doesn't really change her kit. And obviously, any of your AA gods are going to be your hunters, and they're going to be up here. Thoth, I'm keeping an A. He used to break the meta. I thought he was a little overrated. But obviously, I put him in SS just because of how many people thought he was. So I guess that's my fault. But no, I Thoth just doesn't do shit. I'd rather play Baba than Thoth. Still, I'm going to put an A+, and that's just because I think she's probably one of your better mages that I've been seeing a lot. She does a lot of damage, does decent damage to Guardians before she starts building a lot of tank stats. Oh, I'm sorry, tank stats. Tank percent pen. That's what I'm trying to say. She's really good with Obshar. That's gotten buffed too, so I'm going to put her in A+. Erlong I'm going to keep here. I think he's solid, but not really a warrior I'm ever looking at. I'm playing all these warriors up here before I'm playing Erlong. Cupid kind of not really good either. He's gotten enough buffs to bump him up to A, but nothing's really changed much with him. So I'm gonna keep him in A. Obviously, like I said, I'm gonna keep saying it, I guess. All these other hunters up here, I think, do what he does safer. Bastet kind of, fuck man, Bastet's kind of fallen off the face. Like no one really plays Bastet. With that being said, if you play her a little bit hybridy, getting cooldown for your ult, I do think she can do a lot of things. So I'm going to keep her in A. Zhang, another god that I think is still in A, doesn't do too much compared to other mages, but can be very good into like a hybrid type build into a specific team comp. I think he does well. Camazotz doesn't do much either in the double tank because that's what the meta is right now. So I'm going to keep him there as well because he still can do things against your backline, and that, fucked that up. But Agni's also staying here. He's kind of fallen off the face of the planet, and all these other mages will do what he does better. A lot safer. He does a fuck ton of damage, I will say, but you have to play accordingly. And to a double tank, mostly these tanks up here, that, believe it or not, eventually one of these Guardians is going to get picked because you only have 6 bans, and that's if the enemy team decides they want to ban the OP picks. So if you're banning Jin Shan, Cthulhu, Fafnir, that's 3 picks. You're also banning Serket, Kumba, and a god like maybe Kuzumbo. You still have Ares. You still have Cerberus. Atlas, Odin. That's not really a Guardian, but plays like... I mean, there's so many other picks. And if you're going to go into that... And Cab even. You have to... Because Cab counters the fuck out of Agni. So I don't think he's... I just think there's too many picks to counter him, and so I think he still does a lot of damage, can play safe-ish, but definitely gets countered pretty easily, and so I put him in A. Charon also just gonna keep an A. He's just like a middle of the road Guardian compared to every other Guardian. And with that being said, I still think he's really good, but like there's just so many more other Guardians that are better than him. Cuckoo, very similar, gonna be your average mage until either something pushes him up or other gods get pushed down to make him a little bit better. In this meta, just Guardians kill him, tanks kill him. He's super hard to get to, but again, mages aren't really doing well, and I think all the mages up here are better. Sobek is gonna stay here as well. It's kind of funny because he used to be like one of your bans a while back. Now he's just kind of like an A because if you miss your pluck, you just kind of die. Tiamat, very similar. You have to wait till a late game, which doesn't really come a lot of times in Joust because your games are ending between like 15 to 20 minutes. But other than that, I think he's not really that great. Athena, I've been seeing a lot more, and with Curse Weaver does a lot of fucking damage, and obviously he's very good into your backline, double backline. If you do put Athena, Medusa, and Scylla, that's a really fucking good team. With that, I've been seeing her, and her presence is there. I've got to say, not as good as the other Guardians, but definitely up there. So I'm gonna put her in A+. As you can see, all of these are dominated by fucking tanks. God damn, like all these fucking Guardians and Warriors and shit. No bueno, man. I'm gonna put an A+ too. She's super fucking good. She's got a mega buff to her too. I almost could see an argument for her to be S, but I think she's A+, man. I think she's really fucking good. Nobody really plays her a lot, so people aren't really seeing what she can do, but my god, she does a fuck ton. So I can see, I think she's top A+, you know, S argument, in my opinion. Bologna, I'm going to keep an A. You know, whenever you think of Bologna, you think of Amma, because they do similar things. In this regard, Amma got a huge buff, and so I think Bologna is going to be down here. Nuwa, I've got to say, I've been seeing a fuck ton, and she's super fucking annoying. Now, don't get me wrong, she's still easily countered, but my god, her fucking clay minions. I was playing Marty one game. Of course, I'm a backliner, but I saw a fucking Nuwa 2. And I'm like, I'll just kill these. Her fucking clay minions half hit me. I'm like, what the fuck? I looked at her build and she's like hybrid. I'm like, oh my god, dude, these fucking clay minions are destroying me. Even after the nerf, that didn't really affect her too. I still think she's super fucking good. I think I've been underrating her a little bit because I think she's A+. I can make an argument for A. She's definitely not S, I'll tell you that. But, you know, she's super fucking annoying. It's kind of weird to see how much damage she does. If you play it correctly, it's super hard to fucking go up against. All right, where are we at? We are at Merlin. Merlin is going to stay here. Does a lot of damage late game. Other than that, nothing crazy. Neith still staying here. Every other hunter, ability-based hunter, does what she does better. Guan Yu's staying in A. I don't think he does much of anything. He's just a solid, okay warrior. Kern, I'm gonna... I think he's a... I don't know, man. I don't want to put him in B, but that'd be kind of a little bit disrespectful. So I'm going to leave him in A, but he just doesn't do much either. Rama, I think, is A+. People have been sleeping on Rama. I think in Joust, his ability to get out of fights via his ult and his 3 is super fucking solid. A lot of CC, you use your 1-2, and he does a fuck ton of damage. I'm going to put him in A+. I do like Rama a lot. Ishtar is another fucking guy I think is an A+. These are your other hunters that are really fucking good. If you don't want to play these, you know, like Uller, Hoyi, or Medusa, or Marty, or Chiron, or Shablanque, I guess you could pick these guys. But Ishtar, I think, is top of A+. I think she's one of your better hunters. I don't think she's quite S, but she's been getting buff after buff after buff, and nobody really plays her in Joust. But I think she's pretty solid in Joust, especially with her 1. King Arthur, I'm going to leave in... No, I'm going to put him down to B. He just hasn't been seeing any type of presence. Ever since his nerf, and all the other warriors and guardians just being better, I think he's going to be back to B. Tier, I think, probably also is B as well. Don't really see him much. Doesn't do much really in a double tank or in a really Curse Weaver Guardian meta. And so you're not really seeing these guys much. Oleron's gonna stay here. Not as great. I mean, like, he's a better earlier mid late game than Freya, but not as good. Same with Soul. Soul doesn't do too much either. And actually, all of these fucking AA mages just don't really do much. Same with Kronos. So they're all going to stay exactly where they're at. Surtur's going to stay where he is too. I may be underrating him, so I could see an argument for A, but he just doesn't do much. He hasn't really been able to do too much. He's kind of just an ult bot. You just kill him, or you just like destroy him, and then he just ults away, and then you got to reset. That's basically all he fucking does. Scotty, similarly better. She's gotten some buffs too. I think all your other hunters are just gonna do what she does better. She's not very safe. She does a lot of damage, but outside of that, she just gets backlined so fucking easy, and you can't do too much about it. Chang'e staying here too. I think in Joust she really thrives on that double backline meta, which obviously isn't here. And she sucks absolute cock in double tank. Afro, I'm gonna leave here too. I think she's super good if played correctly. Outside of that, not a lot of people play her at that high level, so therefore I'm gonna leave her in B. Vamana hasn't, I think he has been touched recently, but just hasn't done, you know, too much of anything. I'm gonna leave him in B too. All your other gods like Amma and even Bologna, I think, are better with Sunder and things like that existing. Hera's gotten some buffs too. Nothing much there though. She's still the same. In fact, most of these gods are. Kwang, I'm leaving here. He really just farms low elo games. So you know, for you people who don't like seeing him a lot, then maybe he's like A. But really, he just gets CC to high hell, doesn't do too much. You play around him. He just doesn't do shit. Chernobog, similarly, just gonna stay here. Chernobog hasn't really ever been good in Joust, outside of the mega buff that I believe he'd gotten before. Kali is staying here too. Nothing much. Your late game bot. You get to late game and you win. Fenrir's gotten some buffs. Doesn't change much. He kind of blows. Everything he does, everyone above him does better, and even with the buff to his 3, he just doesn't feel good. Heimdall as well, high skill ceiling, but generally speaking, doesn't really do too much. Yanis similarly as well. I think he got rid of his Joust buffs as well, specific buffs, so that brings him down a lot. Jingwei similarly. You get to late game, that's how you win. Merc isn't all that great either. Even with the tank Merc right now, there are a lot of other better tanks for him, obviously. Nem, not really there either. Still very good against your double backline, but we're not in that meta. Poseidon, probably one of your worst mages, honestly. He just doesn't do much. He's an ult bot, and against the teams that we're going up against now with double tank, his ult does nothing. Raw, similarly, just doesn't do much. He's a setup for like a Neja ult or whatever, because he's so inconsistent. And against double tank, you're going to get locked down. Rat can go hybrid. That's how you want to play him. Super safe, but outside of that, he just doesn't do too much. He can't really backline because he just gets CC to high hell. Sylvanas is one of your worst guardians. And with that being said, because of how good guardians are, I'm still going to leave him in B, but we're not doing it this way either, but I'm still going to keep him. He's still a B. We'll just leave it at that. Tsukiyomi got nerfed. He's still in B, though. A lot of other better assassins. Ymir, you have to play him right because he doesn't have an escape outside of his ult. So you have to play him correctly. You have to absolutely use your walls correctly because that's basically what you're banking on, which not a lot of people do. And therefore, I think he's still in B. Hilo got a little bit of buff. Don't think it does much at all. Mages kind of suck right now, so he's in B. Loki, another god that's kind of niche, that doesn't do too much either. And so with that being said, still think he's in B. Bake, B is for Bake because he's super less than mid. He's probably your top worst guardians, and so he's going to be in B still. Hell, again, got to have a specific team comp with her, otherwise she's not going to do well. Your CC immunity is really good in there too, but that's kind of where it is. That's where it ends. Nut, I'm going to bring up to A. She's gotten some buffs and thought she was an underrated god anyways, that nobody really picked up. Played up against a couple of nuts, so they're pretty good, or she's pretty good. And then the recent buff she's gotten, I think, pump her up to an A. I think she's still undervalued in my opinion. Bakasura, god damn it, Cosmos. So I don't think he. I say god damn it because I think he tricked people into thinking that Baka is like super fucking good. When in reality, it's just Cosmos being really fucking good and taking advantage of the full cooldown type builds. If you haven't seen, Baka has been in the meta for his full cooldown type build, which is really good, but you gotta play Baka correctly. He's still an ult bot. You don't really use his 3 all that much with this build because otherwise you're just gonna die. And you just farm. You just use your 2, eat minions, and you just be annoying. You pick your fights, you ult, and you get out. Or if they make a mistake, use your 3 obviously, but generally speaking, you're not using him for your 3. So with that being said, I've gone up against a few Bakasuras. I think maybe like 3 or 4. And out of all of them, I won every single one of them because they tried to do what Cosmos did, which was the full cooldown, 40%. You either go Jotuns into Breastplate or Jotuns into Fail Not. And it's pretty good. But you still have to play Baka correctly, which they weren't playing at all. And so I think with that build, at most, he's A. With that being said, he's still not very good. I'm going to bring him to B. because people have seen what Cosmos has done and they just want to mimic it or whatever, which is fine because, I mean, obviously you're going to mimic the best players. That's good. You want to see what the best players are doing, apply it to your game, win games. There you go. I don't think Baka is one of them, though. You still have to play Baka correctly, like I said. The build still fucks if you play him correctly, but all the games I played against him, nah, he just doesn't do shit. He just they eat minion, and then they just don't pick and choose their battles correctly, and so he's just a useless character. And so I think he's still in B. I think he's a little bit better because of the build, but other than that, he's not very good. Zeus is staying down here, still very bad. One of your worst mages, dies instantly. You can dodge his combo very easily, and then he just sucks. He just doesn't do anything. Susano is another god that just sucks in double tank. He gets farmed, CC to high hell. Daji is also a niche pick because you really want to play her into a god that doesn't have really good CC immunity. So, and specifically targeting the backline. So gods like Agni, specifically, actually, she's really fucking good in Agni because he doesn't have a CC immune ult, forces you to buy things. And even like a god like Terra, who technically isn't obviously a backliner, but you know, gods who don't have CC immunity, she can take advantage of with her ult. Still a niche pick. Alpoash, however, has gotten some pretty big buffs, I got to say. However, with that being said, he's gotten that being said, let me put him in here. I think he's B. Now, the reason because of that is he's gotten some buffs in his ult, so you can kind of build him semi-tanky / hybrid. You could go tablet in like Breastplate of Valor into Breastplate of Determination, obviously, and you can stack your tablet and do a fuck ton. And now that he has damage mitigation in his ult, based on how many times it ticks when in your ult, stacking it to 3 times, I believe, you can actually take advantage of that mitigation, as ability-based mitigation doesn't count towards the mitigation cap via your items. So I think you get up to 25% damage mitigation, or close to. I think it's in the 20s via items. So you can get like your Prophetic Cloak and your Oni Hunter's Garb, and you're kind of maxed out there. But with your abilities, you can still gain. It still stacks the mitigation from your abilities still stack on your items mitigation. So you can get up to like 30 some odd % of mitigation, and so you can take advantage of that. And with that being said, I think he moves up 1 tier. He's got some other buffs in his 1 and his 2, I believe, shortening its cooldown as well as damage scaling in his 2. So I think he's a little bit higher, but still Alpoash, so nothing great. Arachne though, my god, she's been super fucking annoying. I've been seeing Arachnes all over the place, and that's just because of the scaling in her broodlings have been a lot more damage. That's been seeing a lot of damage. I think she's still not very good. I think she's top of B though. Could see an argument for A, but that'd be a little bit weird putting her in fucking like with the likes of Thoth and fucking I don't know, Set and shit like that. I don't think she's that good. But her broodlings, fuck. Her broodlings do a lot of damage, so I think she's up in that B area. Cleo don't really do anything for Joust, even the buffs, I don't think so. Same thing with Izanami. There's just so many other better hunters. She's kind of like a really novice type hunter. Nox, similarly, she only works if you're a tank. Pele, very similar. She ults and dies in regular games, but in this time she ults. No, she ults, gets a kill, then dies. She kind of is like a suicide bomber. But in Joust, she's like she doesn't do that. She just ults and then dies. And doesn't get a kill. Thana, very similarly, he just doesn't do much here. Morgan, one of the hardest gods in the game. But even if played at a high level, she's not that great either. Hades, another god that sucks, but it's gotten recent buffs, so she's a little bit better. Anubis got fucking nerfs, and I think he was already the worst fucking mage here anyways, so I think he's still there. Paulo, very bad. Kefri, super bad. Yamoja, the worst fucking guardian in the game statistically, and Mammon, the worst mage statistically, I think, as well, for obvious reasons. So that is your tier list. I think I got everything. With these tier lists, though, I sometimes forget, and I'll change things, or I won't go over them, but I think I went over all of them today. So this is your tier list for 11.9. Here's if you need to see this down here, even though I'm pretty sure you guys can see. But with that being said, of course, I always do this at the end. I'm going to go ahead and look at I'm going to take a screenshot of the other one. I'm going to compare it to this one. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I'll see you in a sec. All right, here we are. We have 11.8 tier list. You can't see the full tier list here, so I'll go up and down. But for the top picks, some of the things that have changed, in my opinion. So I don't think Ares, Uller, or Kuzenbo are really up here. And instead, I think Jingchen, Cthulhu, Fafnir, Cirque, Serb, Kumba, I think is up here. And Odin, I think, is back up here. And Cryptus, I still think, is your best hunter. Outside of that, a lot less S picks here because we have A plus here. And with A plus, I think there's a lot more room to fill these gaps between A and S. That's why I put it here. Because I don't really think some gods are necessarily S or necessarily A. So I think A plus is a good fit here. So there's a lot of picks here as well. And you'll see down below, nothing really much changes here. Your D category is still the same. Your C category is somewhat the same outside of maybe Bakasura and Arachne. Your B category is roughly the same outside of some few. Alpwash is another one. That's basically it. A category, you got some changes from here from A. A lot of changes actually because they've been moved up or been moved down from S. More generally though, a lot of these have been moved up to A plus because I just didn't feel like they fit. So there you go. There it is. I'll scroll down one more time, one up one more time, and there you go. All right. So this is the final tier list. This is your tier list for 11.9. Can I zoom in more? I can. I zoomed in a little too much. There we go. This is your tier list for 11.9. Tell me what you guys think. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people with differing opinions, so please let me know in the comment section down below. If you do like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. It does go a long way. My Discord is in the description down below if you'd like to contact me or just join a really cool, wholesome community. There's a lot of people talking and chatting and stuff like that. So, and if you need to get a if you need to talk to me directly, that's one of the best ways to contact me is through Discord. Memberships are open for $2.99 a month. If you'd like to support me, one of the best ways to support me, but obviously not necessary. You simply watching my videos is good enough for me. But I think that's everything that I have for you. So please feel free to give me some feedback or suggestions. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys for watching.